Now, the government has repeatedly promised to improve human rights issues in China, and it is a subject the U.S. president will likely bring up when he meets with Xi Jinping in California later this week. But how much has really changed since 1989? For that, we're going to bring in Roseanne Reif, the head of Amnesty International in East Asia. Thanks so much for coming in to talk to us this morning. So 24 years since Tiananmen Square, still no independent inquiry, no public discussion allowed. So how much has changed?
Well, I think that the change we have seen has been tremendous. There's been a huge change in economics and in the social life of many people on the ground. But what we haven't seen is a real reform in the system that allows people to exercise their human rights. One good example is the government put out a report in May about the progress in human rights. And they said, for instance, that the internet was a great tool for people to exercise their human rights to information and to participate, and for government to understand the public's opinion. Yet when it comes to something like the events in Tiananmen Square in 1989, the Great Firewall blocks all discussion of that. And people, activists who try to get that discussion going or have commemorative events, have their internet service suspended, as we've seen again this year. So where is the real discussion, and where is that participation actually allowed to happen?
Yeah, the government has also said that they would come out with a plan by the end of the year on these re-education camps. Have you seen any progress there?
Unfortunately, no, we haven't seen any progress yet. The reform of re-education through labor is something that's been on the legislative agenda for a number of years, but we really haven't seen a plan put out there or any new legislation put out there yet. And, you know, the real danger is that this form of administrative detention, punitive administrative detention, will simply be replaced by another. We've seen that in the past. We've seen an increase of makeshift detention centers like black jails, which are used to put people, you know, in the custody of police and keep them again from the courts or from lawyers or any ability to challenge their detention. We've already seen reports, for instance, that some psychiatric or drug rehabilitation centers are being used in place of re-education through labor. So we're eagerly anticipating this reform and to see what happens, but there are great concerns that it really won't make a difference to people on the ground.
So what is it going to take to see significant change? What are the biggest challenges?
I think the biggest challenges really do center around how much the ordinary citizen is allowed to participate in the discussion. We see the activists and human rights defenders, for instance, calling for an independent inquiry into the events in Tiananmen in 1989, for a chance to bring those who are responsible for human rights violations to justice. But we don't see a response from the government. The government only allows discussion of the things that it wants to have aired in public and shuts down other discussions. So it's a very arbitrary system, and this rhetoric of human rights is very at odds with the plans for reform. And until that is opened up and stakeholders are actually able to participate, we're not going to see any real reform, I think, take place.
Well, this is certainly a discussion that will continue for a long time to come. We are going to have to leave it here right now, but thank you so much for coming in, Roseanne Reif from Amnesty International.